Askreddit thread. What were some of the first world problems in 1980? Developing your vacation pictures just to realize you had your finger on half the pictures. Finger, not thumb. I remember that. Those Polaroid cameras. Nobody uses those anymore. Everybody has a phone on their... What is it called? Camera. There we go. Everyone has a camera on their phone. No need for developing that shit. Miss your show? Tough luck. Better hope they rerun it later in the year. I remember that. I remember racing home to watch new episodes of Pokemon. Because if I missed it, I'd never see it again. or Digimon or Dragon Ball Z. It's like, well, I guess I'll just watch it next time they go through the loop. Or worse, you sit down to watch your show, but its time slot was moved. Now you have to flip through the TV guide to figure out when it's on, only to realize it was on last night. Having to talk to your girlfriend on the phone in the kitchen when family was around. This was still a problem in the 90s and early 2000s, though. Now you can stealth send dick pics mid-dinner. Honey, please stop taking pictures of your penis under the dinner table. Take them above the table. This is a family dinner, and we do things together in this family. Now you Snapchat that bitch a photo of grandma's wrinkly old piss flaps, or no dessert for you, young man. Throws up. Yeah, that's gross. Cassette tape jammed and got crinkled in the middle of your favorite song. Yes, this actually happened more often than I'd like. I remember using a cassette tape as well. Then not being able to find a pencil to fix it. Trying to rewind the cassette to the exact beginning of your favorite song. Zip. Nope, not far enough. Zip. Oops, too far. Zip. Ugh, I passed it again. Zip. Almost. I used to be able to pinpoint the beginning of Money for Nothing. I listened to it so much. Loading games by tape deck and waiting ages for them, then finding out they don't work. The ring pull breaking off as you went to open your can of Coke. Getting your flared jeans caught in the chain wheel of my bike, covered in chain grease. Only having 3 TV channels in the UK. They were all shit. Edit. Stand in the video store trying to decide what film to rent. Picking it up only to find the tag has been taken from the back and someone else has rented it. Having to hide my porn mags inside old record sleeves under the bed or at the rear of my wardrobe. Whew. I remember renting videos from the store. That was fun. Too bad that's not a thing anymore. Having to find a payphone to call someone if you were on the street. Also, they may not answer. Not having money for a payphone, so you call collect and say whatever you gotta say real quick so it's free. You have a collect call from, Mom, come get me. Will you accept the charges for this call? The Soviet Union. In case anyone was wondering about this joke, let me explain it to death. The original definition of First World, Second World, and Third World had nothing to do with being rich, but instead separated the world into U.S. NATO-aligned countries. First World, the USSR/Warsaw Pact and their allies. Second World, and neutral, unaligned countries. Third World. A lot of the countries that were neither with the U.S. or Russia were in places like Africa and really poor. So the association became the Third World equals poor countries. By the original definition, Sweden and Switzerland were third world countries, and several places in South Africa, in the south of Africa that we nowadays would consider to be very much third world, were first world due to British Empire. In the 80s, the biggest unifying problem in the first world was sort of the threat of a nuclear war with the second world. Whew, whether they changed that. Having to get up and push the A-B switch whenever you wanted to play Atari. Making sure you order your triptych from AAA in time for vacation. Triptych. Stopping into a gas station to use the phone book so you don't have to spend money to call 411. DJs who talked over the beginning of the song you were taping. calling in to try and win tickets from a radio station on a rotary phone and getting a busy signal. Having to get traveler's check at the bank, not open evenings or weekends. Then exchanging them for cash at your destination. Then having them left over at the end of the trip and doing something with them. Wow. I work at a bank, and you do not understand the amount of elderly people that still do this. No amount of explaining modern, safer, and easier methods to them. They insist on using traveler's checks. The library being shut when you really wanted to check a piece of information in their encyclopedia section. The batteries of my Walkman run empty too fast. Oh, God, I remember the batteries in my Game Boy going out all the time. I became an expert in which batteries were the best because of that. My new computer game won't run, so I have to wait for the next month's magazine to find out where the typo was. Until then, I will entertain myself this way. 10 print. / I am great. 20 go to 10. Game demos came in magazines. You could type them in yourself. That's how I learned to type faster with more accuracy. My first program when I was something like age 10 beep, 20 go to 10. I don't know what to do when it wouldn't stop beeping, so I pulled the plug on the computer. 30 years later, I'm a software engineer. Finding your favorite top 20 station is switching formats because its FM rival is beating it. Only problem is you have no FM radio. Finding your favorite. I actually had no idea what FM and AM were for a long time. I was like, aren't they both just different kinds of radio station? It blows me away that these kids don't know that at one time all the good music was on AM and FM was just classical and elderly talk radio. Damn, that switched fast, because I listened to the radio when I was a kid in the 90s and never heard any good music on AM. I wish it was still AM, since that's the longer distance frequency. Sweating buckets when her father answers the phone. If the mother answered, it was usually a cheerful official type of, "This is the Johnsons, Martha speaking," type of answer, but when it was a father, it was always the half-bored, half-angry type of, "Yeah?" And that's it. You were on the spot. Is Stacy there? Speak up, son. Click. Some idiot spoiled Empire Strikes Back before I had a chance to see it in the cinema. That bastard. Did you choke him out with your bare hands? Yep, was released from jail just in time to catch the Return of the Jedi. Having a Betamax player and trying to rent videos. I just heard the other day that Sony is finally ceasing to produce Betamax tapes in 2015. Yeah, it lasted forever because many TV studios and production studios still used it. This will effectively force the last of them to go digital. Wow. Yeah, beta was still the standard for TV news and small video production companies until 5 years ago or so. There was only one Iron Maiden album to listen to. That's horrifying to imagine. It's a pretty sweet album, though. Having to call the movie theater multiple times to get movie times because you get distracted and miss the movie you were listening for. I used to do this. In the 1980s, I think I would have been more likely to look in the newspaper. In my local paper, the cinema ads were always on the same page as each other, but in a different page each day. I suppose the first world problem was having to flip through a few pages before you found the ads. In 1980, possibly, but closer to the 90s, everyone was using the telephone, myself included. Do you remember the movie phone skit from Seinfeld? That sums it up pretty well. I used to do that in the 2000s. Recording a song and the DJ cuts it off early. My mom won't buy me all the D&D books because she thinks it's satanic. Getting a ride to the mall. But which entrance to be dropped off at? The one furthest away from where your friends were hanging out, obviously. Oh, the TV antenna breaking off. No, only getting reception in the aerials held in one position. It's a miracle in ice if you're going to have to stand there holding for 2 hours if you want to watch it. I remember my old TVs with their antennas. Oh, I don't even think those work anymore. Because they shut off that frequency. Car seats and seat belts not required. Cord on the telephone didn't reach through the whole house. Oh, car seats and seatbelts. Cord on the telephone didn't reach the whole house. I was over at a friend's house, and his wife had a 10-inch iPhone charger that she kept plugged in all the time. Wow. I saw my baby pictures. I was in a car seat that was quite honestly a piece of Tupperware through which you fed the seatbelt. It was yellow. I didn't even have padding. My head was flopped to one side. To add to the ancientness, this was on the bench seat of my dad's orange Datsun truck. Phone cords. Fuck phone cords. You straighten the damn thing out and get it all uncoiled, and it turns into a ball again by the end of the day. And the cord on the TV remote didn't even reach the couch. What was the point? You had to get up anyway. Remotes had a control? I don't recall this. Ours did. I can't remember if it was VHS or Betamax. Wow. I turned 15 that year, so I was all about learning to drive. My personal first world problem was learning how to drive a manual. If I could do that, I could use my dad's cute little Toyota Ciala sometimes. If not, I would have to use my mom's 1970 Malibu that was the size of an aircraft carrier, and definitely not cool to be seen in. My first car was a manual too. Stick shift. That was a pain in the ass to learn. Now I can drive it like it's nothing. Only because I drove one for a couple of years. It'd be kind of weird if I couldn't drive one with like nothing. Speaking of aircraft carriers, that year my parents had a 1976 Country Squire. The alternator on that thing was bigger than the engine of my 66 Beetle. 3 TV channels. 4 if you're really lucky. That would suck. Actually, you know what? That's about right. We only had a couple of TV channels, and I knew what shows came on and what days of the week on all of them. I would imagine the athletes who trained for the Moscow Olympics only to find their country boycotting them found it something of a problem. Not having enough quarters to play Pac-Man. Not being able to marry Simon LeBron. Cocaine addiction. The RRA/UVF. My mama was just trying to raise her kids and dodge bullets. The card catalog in the library. Use that thing or just wander over the direction where you think books are at that you like or need. We had to rent a VCR back in the day, but my dad seemed to always get the same one with the play button missing. So we'd have to stand back with his back to the thing and finger in it. It had to decide if it was pleased enough to be entertaining. Smoking in the car was still kind of a thing back then as well. It was 7 years ago in 1980. No, I was 7 years old in 1980. Your Darth Vader or Ben Kenobi lightsaber. Ben Kenobi. Lightsabers in the action figures got bent all to shit and they didn't pull out easily or go back in easily. I overslept on Saturday morning and missed Heckle and Jekyll. Speaking of Saturday morning, I wanted to watch Super Friends, goddammit, but my mom and my little sister kept outvoting me. And we'd have to watch Bugs Bunny instead. Fuck you, Speedy Gonzales, I want to watch The Flash. The thin little flap in your moon boots had this shitty layer of glue holding it on, and you sweated that off, so every time you take them off, it comes off with it, and you have to put them back in there. And it wrinkles up when you walk and feels kind of like a long, thin, soft rock in your boots. And if you scuff off your desk, it'll catch, and you got those gnarly little tears because the quality was shit. So you had moon boots with little tears and holes all over. Plus, they fucking stink. Ronald Reagan won the presidency, but by destroying the competition. But the Congress was overwhelmingly Democratic. All of this was lost on me as a 7-year-old. I just remember all my aunts and uncles stopped being cool to hang out with, and all argue with each other really loudly at family gatherings. Huh. Having a guy finger bang you in a theater and him tearing your hose. What? That doesn't make any sense. Back then, there was no cure for bonitis. Futurama reference. If you wanted to watch a movie and didn't catch it in theaters, you waited years, not months. The way a song would fade out in the middle before the 8-track would switch tracks. Pubs closing at 3 p.m., then reopening at 5 p.m., only to call last orders at 10:30 p.m. Only having 3 TV channels which stopped transmitting at about 1 a.m. Man, the thing with all the TV channels seems like it sucks. My cable TV box had a dial and no remote. Oh, entertainment sucked. Television might receive all of 6 channels if you were lucky. Breaking your Coke nail. Making a out-of-zone dollar telephone call landline. Not rewinding your VHS tape rentals before you return them to the video store. I remember doing that too. I'm going on a 2-month vacation to Europe, so I'm going to have to get a ton of traveler's checks and sign them all the first time at the bank. Plus, my passport still hasn't come back with all the visas I need. VHS or Betamax. Keep older 8-tracks or replace them with cassette tapes. Atari controllers are nearly indestructible, but just a little bump will kill an Atari. 25% interest rate on mortgage. Damn. The funniest thing about these answers are how most are from people who are just imagining 1980. Bunch of cuties, goddammit. Yeah, I was 3, so I don't remember. I do have a photo of my dad using Jack Daniel's beer cozy to keep my baby brother's bottle warm, so I'll go with that. And also, so many of these were problems in the 90s and even early 2000s. Yep, I can relate to a lot of them. I grew up in the late 90s, early 2000s. Having to go to a travel agent to arrange travel. Oh, even better, having to wear a blue blazer and tie it to a tie to fly on a plane. What? No auto reserve on your tape deck, so you had to get it. So you had to get up, flip the casket over, and then go back to the hat you were doing. The hat. Getting up to change the channel on the new cable box. Getting up to adjust rabbit ears, V-hold, a tint, or to change the channel. Anytime we wanted to watch a movie, had to go to the rental place, rent the VCR, come home, plug it in, and watch. Then half the time, my dad picked a horrible movie, so it wasn't even worth it. Not sure why I thought of this, but stealing TVs was a 2-man job. Well, I mean, some of those flat screens are still pretty big today.